I'm 92 years old now, and there's one thing I need to say before I'm gone. It's not something dramatic. It's not a secret I've been hiding from the world. It's something much quieter than that. I spent most of my life pretending I was fine. If you had asked me at 30 or 50 or even 70, I would have told you I had a good life. And in many ways I did. I had a husband who worked hard. I had 2 children who grew up healthy. We had a small house with a narrow hallway and a kitchen that always smelled like something cooking. From the outside, everything looked steady. But inside me, there was always something I pushed down. I grew up in the late 1930s and 40s. Back then, people didn't talk much about feelings. You didn't sit around discussing what hurt you. If something was wrong, you kept going. That was considered strength. My father worked at a factory. He left before the sun came up and came home tired. My mother kept the house clean enough that you could see your reflection in the floor. She didn't complain, not in front of us. I learned early that being good meant being quiet and helpful. I married at 22. He was kind but not very expressive. We were both shy in our own ways. Our early years were simple. We didn't have much money. I remember counting coins on the kitchen counter to make sure we could cover groceries. We didn't fight much. That sounds like a good thing, and maybe it was. But we also didn't talk deeply. If something bothered me, I would wait for it to pass. If something bothered him, he would go quiet. I thought that was normal. When our first child was born, I was overwhelmed. No one prepared me for how lonely motherhood could feel. The days were long. The baby cried. The house felt small. Sometimes I would stand at the sink washing bottles and feel tears in my eyes, for no clear reason. But when my husband came home and asked how my day was, I would say, "It was fine." I told myself he didn't need more stress. Years went by like that. Our second child arrived. School mornings, packed lunches, laundry folded late at night. I was busy all the time. Busy is a good hiding place. I told myself I didn't need anything. I told myself other people had it harder. There were moments when I wanted to say more. I wanted to say I felt tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. I wanted to say I sometimes felt invisible, like I was only important when something needed to be done. But the words stayed inside. One evening, I remember sitting at the edge of our bed. The lamp was on. My husband was reading the newspaper. I wanted to tell him I missed feeling close to him. I wanted to tell him I needed more than small talk about bills and weather. Instead, I asked him if he had paid the electricity. That became our pattern. We talked about what had to be handled. We didn't talk about what was happening in our hearts. And the strange thing is, I convinced myself I was content. I would look at our children sleeping and think, this is enough. I would watch my husband fix something around the house and think, he shows love in his own way. Maybe he did, but I still kept quiet about my own needs. As the children grew into teenagers, the house changed. Doors closed more often. There were arguments about curfews and friends. I handled most of it. I was the one home. I was the one they came to when something went wrong. And I stayed strong. If my daughter cried about a broken friendship, I comforted her. If my son struggled in school, I sat at the table and helped him with homework. But I rarely told them about my own fears. I thought parents were supposed to be steady, not vulnerable. Looking back, I see how much distance that created. They knew I loved them. I made sure of that in practical ways, but they didn't really know me. They didn't know how often I lay awake at night worrying. They didn't know that sometimes I felt like I had disappeared into the role of mother and forgotten the woman I used to be. I believed that sacrificing quietly was the right thing to do, and maybe in some ways it was. But silence has a cost. The cost doesn't show up right away. It builds slowly. It's there in the pauses at dinner. It's there in the way conversations stay shallow. It's there in the feeling that something important is missing, even when everything looks fine. I didn't see it clearly then. I just kept going. I kept smiling in photographs. I kept hosting holidays. I kept saying I'm fine, even on days when I felt anything but fine. And the years moved forward, one ordinary day at a time. As the years passed, the house slowly became quieter. First, the children left for college. Then they came back for short visits. Then they came back only on holidays. That is the natural order of things. I understood that. I even encouraged it. I wanted them to have full lives. But when they drove away and the sound of their car faded down the street, the silence inside the house felt different than before. It wasn't the busy silence of nap time or homework hour. It was wide. My husband and I sat across from each other at the same kitchen table we had used for decades. The yellow chairs were worn. The scratch from that fork was still there. We talked about the weather. We talked about the neighbors. We talked about what needed to be fixed around the house. We did not talk about the emptiness. One evening after dinner, he stayed at the table longer than usual. He looked tired. Not physically tired, just worn in a way I couldn't name. He said very casually, "It's quiet now." I nodded and said, "Yes, it is." That could have been the moment. I could have said, "I miss them more than I thought I would." I could have said, "I feel a little lost." I could have reached across the table. Instead, I stood up and began rinsing the plates. That was how we handled most things. When he retired, I thought we would grow closer. We had more time. Long mornings, slow afternoons. But time does not automatically create closeness. It only reveals what is already there. We moved around each other politely. We shared space. We did our routines. He read in his chair. I watched television in the evenings. Sometimes our knees touched on the couch, and that small contact meant more to me than I ever admitted. Then his health began to change. Nothing dramatic at first, just small things. He forgot appointments. He repeated stories. He would stand in the hallway and look unsure of where he was going. I felt fear, but I did not say it out loud. Instead, I became efficient. I organized his pills. I labeled drawers. I scheduled appointments. I handled everything the way I always had, quietly. One afternoon, while I was helping him button his shirt, he looked at me for a long moment. He said, "You've always taken care of everyone." There was something in his voice that made me stop. I wanted to say, "I was scared most of the time." I wanted to say I didn't always feel strong. I wanted to say, "I needed you too." But I smiled and said, "That's what wives do." He passed away 2 years later. After the funeral, people filled the house for a few days. There were casseroles. There were soft hugs. There were words like long life and good man. And then everyone left. The quiet after loss is different from any other quiet. It has weight. It sits in the corners of the rooms. I would walk past his chair and feel something tight in my chest. Not just grief, regret. Not because we had a bad life. We didn't. We were decent people. We did our best. But there were so many words that never found air. Months later, my daughter came to visit. We sat at the same kitchen table. She looked at me for a while before speaking. She said gently, "Mom, I never really knew what you were feeling when we were growing up." She wasn't accusing me. She wasn't angry. She just sounded thoughtful. And I realized she was right. I had protected everyone from my feelings for so long that I had also kept them from knowing me. That was my mistake. I believed that love meant endurance. I believed that keeping things inside was a form of strength. I believed that if I carried the emotional weight quietly, I was doing something noble. But all I really did was create distance. Now at 92, I don't have much left to prove. My days are slower. I sit by the window in the mornings and watch the street. I think about the small moments that shaped my life. Not the big events, the small ones. The times I could have said I'm hurting. The times I could have said I need you. The times I could have said I'm proud of you without waiting for a special occasion. So here is the one thing I need to say before I'm gone. Do not hide behind strength. If you love someone, tell them. If you are struggling, say it. If you are afraid, admit it. You do not have to spill everything at once. Just start with one honest sentence. Silence feels safe when you are young. It feels controlled. But over time, it builds walls you don't even see forming. Speak gently. Speak simply. But speak. I cannot go back and sit at that table again with the younger version of myself. I cannot tap her on the shoulder and tell her to open her mouth and let the truth out. All I can do is tell you, you still have time. Use it to let the people in your life truly know you. Not just your routines, not just your responsibilities. You. I am not afraid of leaving this world. 92 years is a long stretch of days. I have seen enough sunrises. I have held enough hands. I just wish I had been a little braver with my heart. That's all. Now that I've said it, I feel settled, and that is enough.